Hello ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for putting up with all of the education videos I've been doing while we're on this quarantine. It's been a really interesting experience figuring out different ways to reach my students. But I have not forgotten about you paper nerds just like me. I know you're still there, and so I wanted to do a short little video because when I'm not teaching, guess what I'm doing? Papering. Yeah, I am in the middle of making 1920s themed junk journals, and so these are the covers that I've made. And one of the things I spend a lot of time doing for this particular set, I'm going to show you my favorite cover. My favorite cover looks like this in the front, but look at that. I Mod Podged this beautiful ad from a 1928 magazine in there. Sun scorched, this will relieve it. It has this gorgeous girl who's doing some kind of water something. I don't know what she's doing, but apparently it was something that hip young women did in the 1920s. So anyway, one of the things that I struggled with is this is tag time. So all these tags, you know, like you've got that squarish top, you've got the roundish top, you've got the rounded corners top, and all the different ties. That only goes so far before it starts to get kind of boring. And so I was really like thinking outside the box this time, trying to figure out some different ways that I could have some tags. And so I started with this little cutie here, and this is just a little piece of ticking. This is vintage ticking that I just ripped and then sewed on to that, and it was like, oh, that's a nice texture. Another thing that I had, oh, and I did this one too, like that, but this one has a little half circle of some, it reminds me of Klimt, like Gustav Klimt, that paper there, and then I just had an old sheet that was like falling apart, and so I used it like that. So, getting out of my comfort zone just a touch more, I started taking some of the themed papers that I had and just putting a little fold over the top, a little fold over the top of it, and then punching a hole. And then I actually ordered some more of these because I thought that they made it look a little bit cooler. But I just folded over the top and then buzzed it through the sewing machine really quick to make those tags. And I like the way that those turned out really, really well. This is very similar, except for it's not punched on top. And then I just sewed a little, this is supposed to be a ruffle, but it doesn't really look ruffly on here because it's just so little. But some more of that vintage ticking. This guy is just an insert. You know how like when you buy the stuff like seam binding and stuff. This is just the card from the inside of it, and I punched 2 holes on the other side, wrapped some twine around there, and then this is 1920s themed music that I did actually glue down because it's super delicate, but I like the way that that looks. And then I, like I said, I was going through a magazine and finding advertisements. This is one of my favorite things to do. I just do a quick little glue down because these papers are so delicate. I mean, they're from 1927, 1928, and I find the interesting advertisements, and some of them, my friends, are very interesting. They talk a lot about how to keep your toilet fresh, Kotex before Kotex could be talked about in a magazine, just like all that kind of stuff, and it's so funny. And like canned peaches were a big thing. You wouldn't, I saw one advertisement that was like, you wouldn't pick your friends based on looks alone, so why would you pick peaches for the same reason? I'm like, okay, here's one how to make some root beer. But I glue those to paper, and then I run a quick seam around them, throw a little ribbon on it, and make that into a tag. Another thing I always do is I make these little mini books, and they usually just have 4 sheets of paper in them, or 2 sheets of paper, which makes 4 pages in them, and those are just sewn, and then I punch the corners with a corner rounder. Oh, another one of these guys. This is one of my favorite ones. I like the way this one turned out. Just another one that's sewn over, and then I did a corner rounder on that one. I like to make these little, I call them mini notepads, like that. They just have a couple sheets of paper on them. You can pull them out of the book. They do really good under belly bands but you pull them out of the book, you can write on them and then stick them back in. And I usually put between 2 and 5 pages on these. This one happens to have 3 pages. Often I try to do the tea-dyed papers, but not always. This, my friends, is one of my absolute new favorites. It's this, you put like, okay, so you take a little piece of paper and you fold it. So this is all just one piece of paper. And but before you sew down the little folder part, you put a little ruffle or something on it and it turns out cute. And then this is just a little tuck under there so you can put more things on there. But what I really love, besides the fact that there's a journaling spot on the back, is taking a little bulldog clip like this and attaching it. And it's like, oh, I don't even know why. That grungy, like, antique-y look, it just does something for me. I don't even know, but I love it. And then I have several like these kinds of things, like a guest check. I just put a little bit of gold and a ruffle on there. And a library book, I spritzed it with some Tim Holtz paper dye, and then I just had some little scraps that I had and I just stuck them on top, and it just gives it a little flair. So there's lots of journaling spots on there. This is one of my absolute favorite things that I made. So it's just a little piece of twine on the outside. But, oh, I don't even know why. Why is it so freaking cute? But it is. And on the back there's places to write stuff. These are just those little grommets that you use the crocodile on. I love this thing. Like, the happiness that this brings me is beyond what it should be for a piece of paper. I don't even know. And I also did a little bit of antiquing on the edges on it to add a little bit of adorableness, I guess you could say. So you can see it's got little like inking around the edges. And then the last two, ooh, I lied. Note card. Basic, like just a little piece that I would have thrown away otherwise. And then some punches that I had, and a little gold ribbon, because like the 1920s, roaring 20s, like black and gold kind of thing. And then I made, like, I found these Flapper Girl coloring sheets that are cute and everything, but all by themselves, it's like, yay. You put this little band on it, and it's like, ooh, that's cute, my friend. And so I love the way that one turned out. Sorry, get it back in here. Get in there. Get in there, you flapper. She's like, no, I am a woman. You will hear me roar. But like, I just punched a little hole right there and then wrapped the piece of twine around it. And then I did another one with the same paper, and it just goes like this, like a little envelope thing. And you could stick something else in there too, and that would be cute. I also wanted to show one more thing that I consistently do in all of my books. And I don't know about you, but I always get, this is my classy storage container here. I always get like all these weird little strips of paper that you're like, what am I gonna do with that? Like, this one came from this project. These came from this project, these little folded pieces that I cut off. And I am not like other scrappers who do a really good job of recycling all their stuff. I'm like, there is going to be a use for that. And so I stick them somewhere. And the way I've started using them, I mean, look, this is cute. Or this. Why would I ever want to get rid of that? Oh my gosh, it's adorable. You and I know that that's cute. And so what I usually end up doing is I have in each of my books, I don't do a whole lot of plain pages. I mostly have pages that are fairly elaborate with all kinds of stuff sewn on them. So like, here's a pretty typical page of mine right here. Boom, boom. This is actually the home to this darling. It goes right there. I pulled it out of there. But there's always like a lot going on, but every signature that I make always has one of these in it. So for every like 3 or 4 pages like I just showed you, I have one of these. So there's like 4 full-size journaling pages in there, so I can still call it a journal. And I want them to be functional. And so what I do with all those little scraps is I sew them on the edges. And so it makes those pages look a little bit more decorative. And it also uses up most of those scraps that I have left over. And it adds a little bit of color and flair to the books. And yeah, and so I like it. I like it. So anyway, if you are, ooh, I like these ones. I have not really done a lot of this, and so this is a fairly new thing for me, is to have something like you would have this be the other side where you open it up. And so I'm trying to incorporate some kind of different things into my books lately, and you know, start thinking outside of Tamara's box, be a little more creative with my stuff, and not be so like function driven. You know, sometimes be driven like art driven. So like these pages, you can't write on them, but they sure do add to the theme of the Roaring Twenties, considering it's a bunch of foxtrots and all kinds of other music pages that are literally from the 1920s. These, like I've said about all the other 1920s paper, are super delicate, so I've reinforced them with a page of tea-dyed paper so it matches the patina of this actual paper. And then it's actually really important to have those put on there so they don't get all torn up every time you turn the pages. And then all those little punches and stuff, I just put them on here, glued them on, so that they kind of act like a tab. All right, so once again, thanks for sticking with me through the quarantine, and thank you for checking this video out, and I'll see you later. Ciao.